This broadcast is copyrighted by Empire Media and Management. Any unauthorized reproduction is strictly prohibited.
I spend my nights under the stage lights, but after the applause, I'm back in my truck from my hometown dealer, Benoit Motors. The country roads of Louisiana are my soul, and Benoit Motors gets who I am and who we are. They are proud to be a dealership for the everyday American. Join me and become a member of their family. Benoit Motors, they're with you for all your life's big moments and all the miles in between.
Good evening, Panther Nation, and welcome to the Coach Lee Doty Show, brought to you by Benoit Ford of Farmerville. I'm William Handy. I'm here with Coach Lee Doty this evening, and glad to be here with you, Coach, as always.
Well, thanks for having me.
Well, Coach, I want to talk a little bit about the big homecoming win this past Friday night against the Richwood Rams. Of course, it was homecoming, and the Panthers came out with a 48-8 district win. And tell you what, the Panthers really turned in a solid performance in all three phases of the game Friday night, Coach. And, you know, I know distractions are something that coaches always fear in homecoming. Didn't seem to be a problem for them Friday night.
No, and before we get started, just like to thank Danny and Monica Benoit for sponsoring our show, and great people over there. And like I said, if you need a ride, take the short drive over to Farmville and see Danny, and he'll take care of you. Yeah, you know, last week was a good week for us. I thought our student body and the whole school handled homecoming very well last week. I made mention somewhere that it's probably one of the best homecoming weeks I've been involved in a long time. There was a lot of school spirit. You know, the dress-up days and everything were, you know, a lot of people participated in that. So it was a great week. You know, all the girls and dressed up pretty, and I know their families are very happy for them that they got to be on the court. And so, you know, it was a great week for us, and our kids handled it well and came out and performed really well Friday night.
I agree with you there, Coach, and I've heard several of the players comment about the student section and how much fun it is and what they do, and it's just so important to get the whole school involved, and I think that's what we saw Friday night. You know, Coach, just want to talk a little bit about, as I said, about the three phases of the game. I start with the offensive side of the ball, and, of course, you know, going over the stats, just looking at them. You know, in the rushing game, we had 24 rushes, 224 yards, 6 touchdowns on the ground. And in the passing game, 1 for 2, 49 yards and a touchdown. Of course, total yardage was about 273 yards. But, you know, Coach, that's skewed simply because the excellent play of the special teams, we were given a short field pretty much all night long. So, you know, that was a real advantage for us in that game. But, you know, one thing we had talked about previous weeks was kind of ask you what dictates what you do during a game. And, you know, really whether you're going to be more of a rushing game or it's going to be more of a passing game, it just really depends on the team you're playing. And, you know, something that you and I have talked about this quite a bit too is, you know, the rotation you have in the backfield between JaKeldrick Miller, Tremel Colvin, Bryce Lark, or Majay Hatfield, you know, there's really no drop-off in any of those guys. It's a real good luxury to have. And, of course, you've kind of gone to a running back by committee. And kind of whoever's getting hot, you know, at that time. So, Coach, what's the benefits of that, having that running back by committee this year for you?
Well, let me address the plays. You know, we only ran 26 offensive plays the other night in a four-quarter game, which is kind of unheard of, to be honest with you. But to answer your question about the running backs, you know, it's really good for us once we get in the playoffs, I think. I'm sure the guys would love to have more carries, but if you take a guy like Trey Holly that's going to go into week 11 from Union Parish, he's going to have 225 to 250 carries. And you take a guy like Tremel who doesn't even have probably 30 carries. And, you know, him and JaKeldrick should be fresh and should be ready to go. And same thing with our fullbacks. So, you know, we think that the committee's been great this year, and maybe people haven't got the yardage or the recognition that, you know, some people think they do. But, hey, man, you know, we're winning, and that's part of the game is to win the game and do what you need to do to win. And, have a big picture mentality. It's not about this week, it's about week 15.
And, Coach, I guess that's such a great point you make, and you've coached a lot of teams over your years, Mississippi, even at St. Mary's, and I almost get the sense from this team that they see that big picture. And, you almost hear them say, hey, we're fighting for that championship. We want that. We want that ring. We want that hardware. We want it. And, Coach, are we seeing that right? I mean, it just seems like they have got a team mentality all the way around in this group.
Probably the best complete team as far as morale and brotherhood that I've had since I've been here. And, it's fun to coach these guys. We can have a timeout on the sideline. Our guys are coaching each other up. And it's just, it's a fun time right now, man. Our kids are playing well, and I think we're starting to get a little bit better. And so it's fun to watch our kids. And, it doesn't matter if you're a freshman or a senior. Our kids, they still love each other, and they talk to each other and coach each other up. And, that's something that's really changed since I've been here is, my first year here, our seniors didn't even know who our freshmen were. They didn't know their name. So it's good to see that, and we've worked really hard on that, and I'm glad to see it pay off.
Something, Coach, in the last couple of weeks that you've been able to do, and really want to ask you about this. Mason Lawhon is the clear number one quarterback for the team, but, the way these last two games have played out, you've been able to get a lot of kids in, get them some playing time, and as you said, it's really a reward for them, all their hard work and practice. And one guy in particular we've got to see quite a bit of has been Dylan Downs. He's gotten a number of snaps here in the last couple of games. In the varsity game. So I know he was JV quarterback. And, Coach, I just wanted to ask you, how is he developing in that quarterback position? And is he a guy that you're going to try to get on the field somewhere maybe next year, regardless of position, just because of what an athlete he is?
Yeah, Dylan's a good guy, man. He's a good football player, and he's a great kid. And he's a really good athlete as well. He's probably going to be our quarterback when Mason graduates. And I'm trying to get him some reps behind the number one offensive line and, with the number one backs in there because something happens, he's going to have to go play. And he's a freshman, but he's an older freshman. And, we feel like he's got all the tools necessary. And it's good to see him get in. And you can tell he's still a ninth grader. You can tell that at times, but he doesn't believe that, and that's what's so important is he is a leader already, and the kids respect him, and I think it'll be an easy transition when Mason leaves.
Going over to the defensive side of the ball, Coach, all three levels did a great job. I'm talking about the defensive line, linebackers, and the secondary. I thought they did a really great job as a unit. On 41 rushes, they allowed 160 yards and one touchdown. And in the passing game, you don't see this very often. I believe they were 2 of 15 for -1 yards. So it just a tremendous job all the way around. One thing we've talked about, and I think you and I may have had a little conversation about this the next day. The guys on the back end and the secondary had a very good game, had 2 interceptions and almost had a third. Coverage was excellent. Didn't matter whether the quarterback was in the pocket or rolling out or scrambling. They continued to keep their coverage, didn't break down. I'd really like to hear what your comments are on that, Coach, of what that secondary did Friday night.
So, I have to admit I'm not a stat guy, but 2 out of 15 for -1. I don't know. I agree with you. That don't happen very often, I'm sure. But I thought it was the best that we played in the secondary, and I think we put a lot of emphasis on that last week in practice. A lot of team scale that we did. I thought our guys swapped off their man when they had to. We played a little combo coverage But, it's good to see, man. I mean, we've been wanting some turnovers, some interceptions, and it was good to see us, get in there and make some. So, really proud of those guys, and, hopefully they're developing and getting ready right at the right time of the year.
kind of led into something I wanted to ask you, Coach, and you kind of addressed it right there. I've watched some of the game film and really focused on the secondary, and something that impressed me, particularly in high school football, is what you just said, passing off. You would see a receiver go out, he would kind of be in that flat area, and he'd drift down the field, and he was picked up almost immediately. And Coach, that just goes back to your game plan, but that was something that really impressed me. You as a coaching staff, you've only got so much time. How do you – I mean, do these kids just have that much experience? I mean, they've been playing with each other all this year and a good part of last year, but how hard is it to get those guys ready? Because they're doing things that you don't necessarily always see in high school football.
Well, it starts in the summer. We do a lot of we may not travel a whole lot to do a lot of 7-on-7, but we do a lot of pass scale out in the summer with each other. And when our kids are in the 9th grade, we start teaching combo coverage, and if we lock it, then you got your man, you stay with him. If we combo, we pass it off, and our linebackers are doing a good job of getting underneath some routes and making it hard to get the easy shot, so you have to throw it over the top. A lot of our pass coverage is because of we have such a good pass rush, and our guys are making the quarterback have to scramble, and it looks good, and we won the ball game the other night, and of course most of the time when you win it looks good, but we were definitely improved Friday night against Richwood coming out of the Wasman game for sure.
Coach, we've seen a lot of guys step up this season on the defensive side of the ball, and it's really hard to point to one guy that just absolutely stands out. I mean, I know looking at the program and what I see every week, I'm probably closer than most casual fans are, obviously, and there are some standouts. But when you look at it just from a layman's point of view, it's just a unit effort. But there's a couple of guys that have really stood out this year, I think, and you would probably agree. Armada Mills and Chase Mitchell have really stepped up. I know with Armada, he's not the biggest guy in the world, but he always seems to be in the right spot making the tackle. And Chase Mitchell is a guy, and I think everybody would say he was kind of the tweener. You didn't know whether he was a secondary guy, a linebacker, but he has really turned into an asset for the team. Coach, did you see them contributing at the level that they are this season? And maybe, comment on what your take on those guys are this year.
Well, Mod played some as a freshman, and we were at Carroll that year, and we were dropping like flies, and, Mod just happened to be on the travel team for that week, so we had to put him in, and I knew then he wasn't going to shy away from contact, that he was tough, and you could count on him. But he's developed tremendously, not only as a good cover guy, not only as a good cover guy or a good tackler, but, he kind of gets everybody set in that back end as well. So, it's not all physical. It's mental with him, too. He does a great job. And Chase is a guy, just to be totally honest with you, we didn't know where he was going to fit on defense. Coming into the summer, I didn't really even have him penciled in as a starter. And, we tried some other guys in there, and I don't know if that lit a fire under him or not, but he's become our most consistent defensive player, and he's going to be a candidate for league honors for sure. So great to see those guys have that success. I think that trickles down to our freshmen. They see a guy that struggled like Chase did to get on the field for 3 years, and now all of a sudden, he may be the MVP in the league on defense. So it's just great to see.
Well, Coach, when we come back, we'll do a preview on the upcoming game this week with the Franklin Parish Patriots. You're listening to the Coach Lee Doty Show.
I spend my nights under the stage lights, but after the applause, I'm back in my truck from my hometown dealer, Benoit Motors. The country roads of Louisiana are my soul, and Benoit Motors gets who I am and who we are. They are proud to be a dealership for the everyday American. Join me and become a member of their family. Benoit Motors. They're with you for all your life's big moments and all the miles in between.
Welcome back to the Coach Lee Doty Show, brought to you by Benoit Ford of Farmerville. If you need a new ride, take that short drive to Farmerville and let Danny Benoit and his friendly staff make that new car a reality. Coach, we're going to hit the road this week. We're going to take on the Franklin Parish Patriots. It'll be at their stadium in Winsboro, 7 o'clock is when kickoff is scheduled. Forecast is calling for cooler temperatures, but I think we may dodge the rain. That's nice. We've had enough of that, and quite frankly, it seems like every time we go down to Franklin Parish, it's either raining or it's cold and it's windy. We may have the wind, but at least that rain won't be there. But, Coach, Patriots come in, and they've had pretty much a rough year. They've got a 1-6 record, and their lone win was a 28-0 shutout against the Bastrop Rams. But that was 2 weeks ago. But I think you really have to drill down deeper into that schedule. When you look at their losses, they've had some great teams they've played this year. They started the season out with 3A Lake Charles College Prep. They're 5-3 right now. They took on 4A Warren High in Arkansas, 7-1. Carroll, of course, they're 5-3 in the district. They played Union, 5-3 in the district, and then they started their district play. Neville, 7-1, number 2 in the power rankings, and Huntington of Shreveport, who is also 7-1. So they've had a pretty tough schedule there, Coach, and it's they hadn't had an easy road to hoe so far, but they do have a very experienced coaching staff, of course. Head coach Sonny Nason has been around for quite some time, played or coached at Lake Providence, Bastrop High. I think he did spend some time up in Arkansas Crossett High, had them to the semifinals, I want to say, around 2019. And, of course, as their offensive coordinator is Adrian Burnett, longtime coach around here. Folks probably recognize Jesse Burnett, his dad, is a longtime coach, but Bastrop High coached during some of their better years. And, of course, defense coordinator is Mike Collins, former coach here at Sterlington. But, when you look at their offensive scheme, Coach, it's very similar to what we saw against Wassman. Really mirrors it quite a bit. They're going to have 3-4 wide. You're going to see the jet sweeps out of the shotgun and some run option plays. But correct me if I'm wrong, Coach, just kind of looking at the film, looks like number 3, Baker, the little running back, is probably one of their better offensive players, along with Javian White, number 17, wide receiver. They got a bigger fullback, Kemp, number 40, and then it looks like Curtis, their quarterback, number 10, he runs and throws the ball around quite a bit. But, Coach, given the similarity that we've seen the last 2 or 3 weeks, are we going to see much of a change in game plan on the defensive side of the ball for what you expect to see with Franklin?
Probably not. Probably not a whole lot. I mean, once you get to this point, you're going to do what you do. And, we'll have some 5-man front against them. And but, we've got a lot of defensive linemen this year and not a whole bunch of linebackers. And we played a lot more 5-man front this year than we ever have. So we'll be able to do that some against them. And, we think we can personnel them when 32's in there. He's their H-back and up-back guy. And 4 is starting to run the ball now, a lot more than 3 is, I believe. And, we think we can get in there and do some good things against them if we just play hard. And I will tell you this, 1-6 or 1-7, whatever they are, it's hard to believe that they've only won one football game when you look at them, because they play hard. Their 3 defensive linemen is as good as anybody we've played. And so it's just really hard to believe that they haven't scratched more than once. So, it's a dangerous type situation. You go down into a place like that, and it's not going to be the atmosphere as it was when we went to Mangum, or it ain't going to be the atmosphere when we go to North DeSoto. It's just not. It's not going to be the atmosphere when we went to Union Parish. So we've talked to our kids all week about, if you want excitement, you got to create your own excitement. You want an atmosphere, then bring the atmosphere with you. So it's about how we play and what we do. And, I'm looking forward to taking them down there and see what happens.
Well, Coach, when looking at their defense against our offense, you pointed out, the defensive line seems to handle, things well. Linebackers pretty much flow where they need to. I was kind of looking at the secondary, Coach. Do you foresee us having some advantages in the matchups there? It seems like, of course, Barr will have a height advantage on so many kids, but it just seems like, and again, I'm looking on a film that's not the highest of quality, but it seems like we might have some matchup possibilities there that might be positive for us.
Yeah, definitely what you said about Barr. Anytime you get a chance to throw it to Barr, you should. That, I mean, he's, and then Ram as well, with just some slants and stuff like that with Ram. But I tell you what they provide more than anything is they're the best blocking duo of wide receivers I've ever had. And I think our biggest advantage is getting our running backs into that second level. You get Romo past the line of scrimmage or JaKeldrick or whoever, Trammell. I'm not sure that it's going to be a whole lot of fun for those guys to tackle them. And I think that's our biggest mismatch is just trying to get past the line of scrimmage and getting our guys in the secondary and forcing those guys to tackle our backs.
And that's something I think that I'm glad you mentioned the blocking, Coach, because that's something I've really kind of wanted to talk to you about all season. Just never seems to come up in conversation. But I think everybody sees what the offensive line does day in and day out. Coach Larry Foster is probably one of the best offensive line coaches in the state. And I find myself watching game film, and I just get mesmerized watching how they work as a unit. Backside guys rolling up their blockers. You got your trap blocks working. It's a thing of beauty if you just sit down and watch it in motion. But what you said about the receivers and the fullbacks or the lead back, they're a lot of times those are the guys that break those long runs or help break those long runs, Coach. And I mean, is this just something that y'all work on those blocks out in space? Because to me, that's one of the most difficult blocks to make because you're trying to lock that guy up without holding. And in particular, Ramaje stands out. There's so many times you'll see him take somebody on like a linebacker, and that springs Trammell or JaKeldrick to get out in that secondary. And then, as you said, you've got those receivers locking up on a stalk block, which is so hard to do. Do y'all spend a lot of time working on that, Coach, or are these kids do they just get it?
Well, Coach Dearman does a great job with our receivers, and it's fun to watch them guys. And we've gotten some holding calls this year, but simply because we're putting them on the ground. And I always tell the refs, you bail them out with a holding call because they got their butts kicked. And that's kind of how I see it a lot of times. But they're good players, good blockers, and yes, we do practice that. And very happy with Coach Dearman and how he's moving that receiving corps right along.
Well, Coach, do you have any closing comments before we wind up the show?
Just go back to our defensive backs. We got two coaches for two positions only. We have two coaches that coach O-line, and we have two people that coach defensive backs. So, in reality, if you get past the defensive backs, it's time to listen to the fight song. So, Coach RJ and Coach Sims do a great job of coaching them up over there. So, want to make sure we say that, and hope everybody makes a trip, man. Let's create an atmosphere down there. Let's create an environment, and that's good for our kids, and we'll do our part, and hope everybody shows up and shows out, and be careful. And as always, go Panthers.
Absolutely. Go Panthers. Well, folks, if you can't make it down, and we want you there, as Coach said, we need that atmosphere. If you can't make it, you can watch us on the pantherfootball.com site for YouTube, and make sure that, like I said, if you can't, please watch us, and we'll be back next week.
I spend my nights under the stage lights, but after the applause, I'm back in my truck from my hometown dealer, Benoit Motors. The country roads of Louisiana are my soul, and Benoit Motors gets who I am and who we are. They are proud to be a dealership for the everyday American. Join me and become a member of their family. Benoit Motors, they're with you for all your life's big moments and all the miles in between.
This broadcast is copyrighted by Empire Media and Management. Any unauthorized reproduction is strictly prohibited.